Welcome to the deep dive. If I asked you about direct air capture or DIC, I bet the picture that comes to mind is pretty clinical, right?
Yeah, probably giant fans, complex filters, talk about Coro storage, carbon credits. Feels very technical, very environmental.
Exactly, purely technology focused. But let's try and shift that perspective for a moment. We've looked at our sources and they raise a much stranger question. Think about the Arctic.
Okay.
Picture a remote settlement. Winter is like 9 months long. It's consistently minus 40 degrees Celsius out there.
Brutal conditions.
Totally. Fuel costs a fortune because it's all flown in. And fresh food, forget about it. It's a luxury shipped thousands of miles, incredibly expensive.
A really tough place to live, no doubt.
So in that specific environment, what if that DIC machine, the climate tech, wasn't just about scrubbing carbon?
And that's really our mission for this deep dive. Could this technology, originally designed for fixing the atmosphere, also solve these really immediate survival problems for people in extreme places?
Things like heat, energy, food security.
Exactly. Could DC become more than just a climate tool? Could it be what we're calling a habitation engine?
We think it could. And the interesting thing is, this potential isn't some add-on. It seems to be, well, baked into the physics of how DC works. It's just not the headline, usually.
Right. To get it, you need to quickly revisit the core DA process. It's basically 3 steps to pull core Euro out of the air.
Okay, step one. Those big fans suck in air. Mostly nitrogen, oxygen, and that tiny bit of co-air.
Step 2. Special materials, called sorbents, act like a sponge and chemically bind only to the core Euro molecule.
Hey, filter it out.
Pretty much. And then step 3, the crucial one, regeneration.
Yeah.
To get the core Euro off the sorbent so you can reuse it, you have to apply heat, a good amount of heat.
Right, and that releases the pure concentrated choreo.
Yes, but here's the kicker our sources kept highlighting. The energy you put in to release that CRO, especially with newer solid sorbent types, isn't just lost. A large portion of it is actually recoverable as heat.
So it's not just about the euro you capture and maybe store or sell. It's also about the thermal energy you manage during that release step.
Precisely. The headlines always shout about the carbon captured. But the process also outputs this significant stream of usable heat, mostly low to medium grade thermal energy.
And that's the surprise.
That's the surprise, because that kind of energy is exactly what a freezing cold settlement desperately needs just to function day to day.
Okay, wait, though. DAC is famous for being an energy hog, right? It needs massive electrical input. So how can this sort of byproduct heat be the gold nugget? Doesn't it just offset the huge energy cost?
That's a really good question. It gets to this idea of thermal grade mashing. The electricity DA uses powers the fans, the machinery, maybe some high temperature parts of the process.
Okay.
But the heat that gets released when the sorbent lets go of the KEO, that's lower grade. We're talking maybe 70 to 100 degrees Celsius, typically.
Which isn't hot enough for, say, spinning a big power turbine efficiently.
Exactly. If you take super hot steam from a traditional power plant and try to pipe it into houses for heating, you actually waste a lot of energy potential converting it down. It's inefficient.
I see. But day naturally produces heat that's already in the right ballpark for standard hot water heating systems, like district heating.
Precisely. You skip those conversion losses.
Yeah.
That's why it's potentially transformative in these cold regions. It's the right kind of heat, generated constantly as a necessary part of the carbon removal itself.
And when you put some numbers on it, it really clicks. Our sources suggest that for every ton of co-Euro capture, a DE unit could release enough thermal energy to heat a regular home for several days.
Let's scale that up a bit for you listening. Imagine a relatively small DAT plant, maybe capturing something like 1,500 tons of co-Euros a year.
Okay.
Now that byproduct heat. It's potentially enough to keep 50 to maybe 80 well-insulated homes warm continuously.
Wow, that's a lot of heating oil you don't need to burn or fly in.
Exactly. And without burning anything extra on site for that heat.
And you're not just letting this heat dissipate, are you? The idea is to manage it.
Oh, absolutely. You channel it. Insulated pipes running through the community, creating proper district heating systems, feeding homes, schools, clinics, whatever is needed.
You mentioned storage, too.
Yes, that's critical. You can use large insulated thermal tanks. They basically act like heat batteries.
So you store the warmth when the dock is running full tilt, maybe when renewable power is cheap and plentiful.
Right, like during windy periods. And then you draw on that stored heat during the, long, dark polar nights or when the power supply might dip. It adds a huge layer of resilience.
This really flips the script, doesn't it? You could imagine future Arctic towns designing themselves around the DD unit. It becomes the central heating plant first, and the climate benefit is almost the co-benefit.
It's a massive shift in thinking, and it doesn't stop at just keeping people warm. The next piece is just as vital, food.
Right. Food security in the far north. We've all seen those shocking price tags on, like, I had a lettuce that's been flown thousands of kilometers.
Exactly. Communities are incredibly reliant on these long, fragile supply chains. A bit of bad weather, a fuel price spike, it could disrupt everything.
So how does Daki tackle that?
Well, it uses both of its outputs in an integrated way. We just talked about the waste heat, right?
Yeah, keeping greenhouses warm year-round.
Perfect for that.
Ah.
But here's the other clever part. You take the captured, concentrated Ki-Euro gas.
The stuff you just removed from the air?
Yeah. And you pipe that back into the greenhouse atmosphere.
Wait, you feed the captured carbon to the plant?
Absolutely. Ki-Euro is plant food. It's essential for photosynthesis. And studies show that enriching the air inside a greenhouse with higher concentrations of Ki-Euro can seriously boost plant growth rates.
You're basically turbocharging the plant.
You really are. You're creating this kind of hyper-efficient growing environment.
So the system closes the loop, the waste heat enables the growing conditions, and the waste carbon actually accelerates the growth.
That's it, precisely. And we're usually talking about quite sophisticated setups here. Hydroponics, vertical farms, often running on renewable power with artificial lighting.
It's not just a couple of tomato plants?
No. Think of it as a self-contained biosphere module. One DIE integrated greenhouse could potentially provide a diverse range of fresh, local produce for dozens of families.
Which cuts those complex supply lines, boosts nutrition, makes the community way more self-sufficient.
Immediately. Better health outcomes, less vulnerability. It's a game changer.
Okay, this is where it starts to feel, I don't know, almost futuristic. Let's paint that picture. Put all these pieces together.
Right, so picture that settlement again. Outside, it's -40, maybe a blizzard is raging.
Yeah.
But inside, you've got these maybe enclosed, brightly lit corridors connecting homes, the school, the clinic, all comfortably warm thanks to that DIC heat loop.
Cozy, despite the Arctic storm.
And through a window, you see the glow from the greenhouse modules.
Yeah.
Inside, there are fresh herbs, berries, leafy greens growing year-round. Stuff that tastes better and is packed with more nutrients than anything shipped in.
It really does turn isolation into a form of engineered resilience.
It does. And the potential value multiplies again when you think about pairing DC with other technologies.
Like what?
Well, renewables, first off. We touched on this. If your DC is running on wind or solar.
Which can be intermittent?
Right. The DC acts as a flexible load. You run it hardest when the sun's shining or the wind's blowing strong. You maximize carbon capture and heat generation then.
And store the heat for later using those thermal tanks.
Exactly. It helps smooth out the intermittency of the renewables and converts cheap, abundant power into stored warmth and captured carbon. It helps stabilize the grid.
Okay, what else? You mentioned data centers earlier.
Ah, yes. This is potentially a really neat synergy. Data centers produce a ton of waste heat themselves, but they also need super reliable electricity.
And they need cooling, obviously.
In the Arctic, the cold air provides free, passive cooling for the data center. The DIC unit, with its steady power demand, helps stabilize the local grid for the data center. And then, the heat recovered from the DAC process.
Gets piped to the town or the greenhouses.
You got it. You've taken two industrial processes that need power and produce heat, and you've integrated them to support the community's needs for warmth and food. Very efficient.
That's smart. And the final frontier connection, space.
Yeah, the sources really lean into this. Think about future habitats on Mars or the Moon.
Okay.
Managing heat, managing air quality, using concentrated CO2s to grow food, recovering every bit of energy. These aren't just nice to haves, they are absolutely critical for survival.
Life support systems.
Exactly. So these Arctic DAC habitation engines become, in a way, test beds. Earth-based analogs for figuring out the closed-loop systems we'll need for off-world colonization.
It's a compelling vision, but let's be real. This sounds complex, expensive.
Right.
There have to be significant challenges, right?
Oh, absolutely. We have to be realistic. There are major hurdles.
Like the energy demand.
That's the big one everyone points to, and rightly so. DD is power hungry. If you power with fossil fuels, you could easily wipe out the climate benefit, or worse.
So it absolutely needs clean energy.
It's non-negotiable. Dedicated renewables, maybe small modular nuclear or some other low-carbon source, is essential for this whole concept to make sense from a climate perspective.
And then there's the cost, the upfront cost of DD units themselves.
Still high, yes. Currently, we're talking hundreds of dollars per ton of co-euros captured. That sounds like a lot compared to, say, just buying heating oil or flying in food.
So how do you justify it?
That's where the thinking needs to shift. If you only value the carbon removal, the cost looks daunting. But what if you factor in the value of the reliable heat, the value of the locally grown food, the avoided cost of imports, the increased community resilience?
You have to look at the integrated benefits package.
Exactly. It changes the whole economic equation. And remember, technology scaling, think about early solar panels. Costs were sky high initially. Mass production and innovation brought them down dramatically. DC is likely on a similar path.
Okay, energy source and cost. What else?
Infrastructure.
Yeah, that's a big one too. You need the investment in the district heating pipes, the high-tech greenhouses, the water management systems for hydroponics. It's a significant upfront build.
And probably community buy-in, right? This is a different way of organizing things.
For sure. Cultural acceptance is key. Communities need to be involved in the planning. It can't just be imposed. But the core question for planners, for investors, is becoming. Is that whole package, the heat, the food, the carbon removal, the independence, is that compelling enough to make the investment worthwhile?
Given the dual pressures we face globally, climate change and supporting human life in challenging environments, it feels like the answer is leaning towards yes.
I think so. It moves beyond just treating symptoms. It aims to build genuine, lasting resilience. The big takeaway for me is that paradigm shift you mentioned earlier.
Right. We started thinking of DAC as this sort of detached global climate fix.
Yeah.
But when you apply it to solve very specific, very urgent human needs in a particular place, it transforms. It stops being abstract climate tech and becomes this incredibly practical habitation engine. It provides warmth. It provides food.
So maybe the provocative thought to leave everyone with is this. What if these carbon removal plants, these symbols of climate action, what if they actually become the new centers of communities, like the town well or the village green used to be, the hearth, providing essential warmth and sustenance?
I love that. What if these designs, honed in Earth's toughest climates by squeezing every bit of value out of heat and co-euro, are literally the blueprints we end up using to build viable colonies on Mars, where that kind of efficiency is paramount?
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What new kinds of resilient, independent ways of living could emerge if we stop focusing only on the co-euro removal and start maximizing all the other life-sustaining benefits that come along with it?
A lot to think about there.
Definitely. Thanks for diving deep with us today.